Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We're here with the Chapter Black Saga, which has, a way better villain. I think the best one, honestly, in Yu Yu Hakusho. My favorite for sure.
He's essentially as a not unlike the Turles to Goku. He's like the evil version of if the main character was bad. I know I feel like it's been done a lot.
But he's got really good. He's got a really good psychology.
You understand it. You understand it, and the Chapter Black's namesake actually comes from a plot device of a Chapter Black tape, which we will go into. The saga starts with kind of a hilarious little flip. Yusuke's the one getting kidnapped for the most part.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. There's like this. You can feel it instantly when this arc starts that there's this lull now that the Dark Tournament is over. It's like they accomplished and got through this great ordeal that they had to fight through together as a team. And now they're all just kind of bored.
And this is a common occurrence with like even the start of the next saga where Yusuke just feels complacent. He doesn't really know what to do with himself. And thankfully he doesn't have to mull on that too much longer. I believe he starts out like hanging out with Keiko and even had this weird moment where he gives a dude a look. And some guy's like, whoa, that's a tough motherfucker. It's like, what was the point of that?
Yeah, it's very interesting in that, yeah, he just is like, he's not feeling school again. He's like back in this mundane, the drudge of life as a teenager.
He hates school, isn't that right, gamer?
Yeah, he's just not feeling it. And so what ends up happening is, I think he's with Kuwabara, or I think he was with Kuwabara.
He's Kuwabara and Keiko.
Yeah, he's with Kuwabara and Keiko, and these three teenagers kind of show up, all wearing different school uniforms.
Teenagers, am I right, gamer?
so they all obviously go to different schools, but they show up with the intention of challenging Yusuke, specifically Asato Kito.
Yeah,
Asato
he's
Kito.
he's the kind of the ringleader.
Kind of like the ringleader, and Yusuke meets them at a abandoned playground or something like that.
Yeah,
some schoolyard,
yeah.
and the fight happens, and essentially Asato Kito, Yusuke's not able to do anything, and then it kind of cuts, and he's gone.
Yeah, so Yusuke is kind of out of the picture pretty quickly, and the thing about these characters, they're very unassuming. They look like your basic average Japanese boys.
Basic teenagers.
They don't look like big demons with big armor and hulking axes and throwing shit. No, they're just regular dudes.
And so Yusuke has now gone missing. Kuwabara's spirit awareness and his ability to like use his spirit sword and stuff like that don't seem to be working.
Yeah, so like him and Botan end up going out to find Kurama, who's kind of having his own like little powwow going on.
Kurama's just...
It's like trying to force him into like a group or something.
Yeah, some like nerds are like trying to force him into like their club and...
Nerds, am I right, gamer?
Yeah. They're trying to force him into their club, and it's just like, but all the girls like you, and they're calling me Suichi, they don't know him as Kurama. All the girls like you, you get the best grades and stuff like that, so yeah, if we win prizes, that means we get girlfriends, and then they're like, if you don't join us, then we'll have to use force. And Kurama's like, oh god, nerd violence.
Yeah, he legit says that. That's what
like
he
nerd
says
violence.
in the episode. It's amazing.
And then Kuwabara just comes stomping through the school, shouting out Kurama, and then he's just like, oh Jesus. And they get him to come with them because Yusuke's missing, and then they're like, well, we need to find Hiei.
And they essentially like have to really do this rigmarole to convince Hiei to come with it, because Hiei's like, Yusuke, man, fuck Yusuke.
He's like, oh, he was too weak to get captured.
That's his fault.
Sounds like he deserved to get captured.
It's like, yeah, after all that, Hiei?
And they're like, you're not wondering, and then Kurama's like, so you're not wondering like how strong someone could be if they're strong enough to
like,
get Yusuke.
You can't trick me with that one.
He's like, I know you're
Good
playing
try.
me. I know you're playing me, but I'm not going to go with it this time.
Yeah, I've actually not.
So,
and then they eventually are like, you know what? All right, fine. We'll cut your sentence in half or something.
she says, like, I'll tell Koime to get you for time served. And then he's like, deal.
Yeah, it was like, wow, that was quick.
Yeah, so the four of them go to this mansion or something like that. I can't remember what the mansion
What was it, man? It's, I remember it kind of goes to this isn't a fantasy world thing yet.
What ends up happening is they go to this mansion, and I believe at this mansion they have to, like, the three teenagers are there, and that's where Yusuke is being held. And what happens is they have to operate under the rules within, like, what's going on in this mansion, because these three teenagers are able to emit something called territories. And you find out Yusuke, he was caught in a territory, And
I think Yu is the one who like pulled up his territory or something. Was it Yu's?
Yu Kaito.
Was it? Yeah,
Kaito,
it was Yu's who did it.
Yu
Yeah.
Kaito. And Kaito, he's the first territory that they get it. And Yusuke is caught in Asato Kito's territory, which he has the ability to manipulate shadows. And he can trap another person's shadow if he gets a hold of it. With Yu Kaito, you find out he's wearing the same school uniform as Kurama, so they attend the same school. Yu Kaito considers himself like Kurama's intellectual rival, where he's like, he beats me in every subject, and Kurama's like, oh, you beat me in
English, yeah.
And he's like, oh!
That's not what I want to beat you.
I want to beat you in everything, though. And,
so he just has this complex with him.
So he has this thing where, because he's this nerd and he can't really do anything physically.
So he has these word games, and he essentially makes up these rules too. So
yeah, you have to operate within the rules of the territory,
and he makes the rules.
And he doesn't believe in violence within his territory, so that's not how you're going to be able to beat him.
Which quickly gets Hiei out of commission for this whole part.
Because he tells them he's like, the only thing that they can't do is utter the word hot.
And as you know, you can't tell Hiei what he can or can't do.
He's like, no 3-letter word is gonna hold my.
He's like hot.
He's like hot.
And then, as if to anyone's surprise, the dude gets like stoned. He turns into stone.
Yeah, he's like frozen, and like his soul comes out of his body, and Kaito is now holding Hiei's soul, and they're just like, okay, all right.
And then they pull some bullshit too, where which he specifically doesn't say, but not only just saying the word. If the beginning, middle, and end of your sentence start with H-O and T, or if, say, you say, like, shot, that would still count because like hot is in the...
hot is in the word.
It's bullshit, and it gets... Is that what... I think that's what gets Kuwabara. No, Botan. It gets Botan.
It gets, like, both of them.
Yeah.
Because, it's what got Kuwabara that way. Because he was asking for like a cold soda, and he was like, "Let's just boil it. Something."
Yeah,
and he says it, and the words he said made the word hot or whatever. And Botan was like, "But he didn't even say the word hot." And I was like,
"Oh, that's right." Yeah.
He's like, "You serious, Botan?"
She's like, "I made an oops."
And Kurama looks back at her like, "You idiot."
Yeah.
And then so Kaito explains that this is a battle of like diction and stuff like that. So it's just like
they end up changing games. So I think Kurama ends up doing this idea of every minute you can't say a letter of the alphabet.
You take off a letter of the alphabet.
So anytime you say any word, or any sound that involves that letter, even if it's like an onomatopoeia, you lose.
Yeah, you lose the game.
So it starts from Z and Y, so it gets progressively harder because you can't use anything or make any sound that is involved with the letter Y, Z, X, etc.
And the other teenager, I can't remember what his name is.
The one that's guarding the door?
Yeah, who has the power, he has the ability to copy. He's got like the purple...
That's the only thing I remember him is that he can copy.
Yeah, he's got the purple broomstick hairstyle. But he's holding like the key to the next room. And, Kurama's got to figure out how to get the key from him without violence. So he manipulates the plants in the room to pick him up, and then gently set him back down, which all it really does is just the plants just let him go.
Yeah, so it technically wasn't violent because gravity was the one that did it. So he can't just remove gravity.
So he took the key, and then he kind of like uses the bathroom or something like that, and then when he comes back out, the whole room is just covered like a forest.
Yeah, so at this point, when he goes to use the bathroom, they're getting down to like maybe 3 letters left that they can say.
Yeah, now it goes down to like 1 letter.
It goes down to like 1 or 2, so you can't really say anything. So he does this, and you can see that Kaito is kind of a smart guy. He knows that, he's waiting to see if Kurama is going to scare him into making a sound. So he holds his mouth down, but then Kurama, being the adorable bastard that he is, decides that I'll make him laugh. So Kurama makes this stupid face.
We don't see what the face is.
Which I do think which sucks because I want to see like
what was this
Kurama's
face?
Pretty face. What face could he make?
Yeah, so he makes this crazy face and it makes Kaito laugh.
Which makes him lose.
And he loses the game. He realizes what happens, and everyone gets their souls back, and they move on to the next room, which the copy guy he's back up and he's awake. Basically, they have to go through each have to go through individual doors. And they'll come up on the other side, and that should lead them to where Yusuke is. And they decide to like use these gadgets that would detect their spirit signatures and tell each other if they're okay. EA is all like, I don't need that stuff.
Yeah.
And then he's like arguing with them. He tells Botan, like, you put that on me, I'll break your hand. And then Kurama just puts it on him, and he's like, did he forget that he was the first one to lose his soul? And he is just like, you mother. And so They do it, and they end up coming out the other side of it. And then now Yusuke has to guess one of them got captured and was copied.
So the game still continues.
It's still continuing, and he has to guess who it is, and like he ends up, poor Kuwabara ends up being the one who he guesses is the copy, and it was Kuwabara. It was Kuwabara because he tries to ask all of them something that only they would know. He asked Kurama something about his mom, and Kurama is just like, "Oh, she's getting married soon." He's like, "Oh wow, yeah, the wedding," and then and he says to Hiei, "What's your sister's name?" And then Kuwabara is looking at him like, "You got a sister?" And then Hiei's looking at him like, "You know her well enough." he's looking at Yusuke like, "Don't try me." I'm not with the games tonight.
Yeah,
I'm just here so I don't get fined. But he does end up guessing that it's Kuwabara, and yeah, that was the copy guy, and then he ends up knocking out Asato Kito as well.
So he's out.
And then they end up finding out this was all a test by Genkai.
Yeah, of course, it's always going to be going back to her for these games. And I will be, even as a kid, I didn't see that coming. I was like, oh, this was Genkai?
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
But it makes sense because it's all people who have, spirit qualities. So it's like, they weren't violent, so it made sense.
Yeah. And then, so what you end up finding out is Kawinma has noticed that there's been this dangerous activity with there's a portal that seems to be being opened up, and it's allowing
lower level demons to come
through, and humans are now being kind of granted psychic abilities and stuff like that, like lower level spirit powers. And they're talking to Kawinma. Kuwabara isn't able to see what the conversation because his spirit energy isn't working, and they find out the tape known as Chapter Black has been stolen from the spirit world vault. I was like, boy, stuff keeps getting stolen from these vaults. Y'all need to upgrade the security, man.
Something.
And so the Chapter Black tape.
So it essentially boils down to it's a recording of some of the most foul things that side of the spirit world anywhere.
It shows what humanity
the worst of it.
The worst of the worst of humanity, and it's supposed to be
a viewing of it will change you forever.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be hours upon hours of footage, and it's done things where people who have seen it have been driven insane, or it'll change you. And
that sort of already ties into a character. Now, if I can remember his name, I think it was Kiyoshi, right? Didn't Kiyoshi watch it? Kiyoshi was the one who was trying to bait Kuwabara to getting that dimension sword.
Oh, yeah.
And Kyoshi saw
Seaman.
See, I always forget his actual name because I remembered it.
Seaman, that's how I know him. Matari, that's what they were calling him. Matari. So the guy who took the Chapter Black tape was a guy named Shinobu Sensui. And Sensui, which we end up finding out, Sensui was a former spirit detective. Yeah.
And he was essentially under Kawinma as well. He was actually where Yusuke's spot is.
He was under Kawinma's charge. The first person who figures this out is Kurama. Kurama, of course. Yeah, he deduces because he just feels like Kawinma's hiding stuff. And he goes to Kawinma, and he just basically straight up tells him to his face, he's like, "You're hiding stuff from us. And you're sending us out here
to clean up
this mess with very little information, and it's not helping anybody."
Yeah.
And Kawinma basically tells him the truth. And then what we end up finding out is Sensui was a prodigious spirit detective who was at birth very highly sensitive to the spirit world and with spirit energy.
And his character flaw, though, was that he viewed everything as black or white.
Black or white. It was some certain things were right or wrong. There was no gray area until he came upon a case one time where he saw humans
just
torturing and mutilating demons.
And it was all for sport.
And they were taking it was the stuff he was seeing. I think in the manga, it's much more graphic than they let on what was being done than in the anime. But
yeah, the anime just showed them doing kind of there's a demon rotating on a board.
Yeah, it was the humans were really doing some the manga almost makes it seem like it was some. It was some sick stuff, and
it drove him to actually kill every human in that room.
He killed all the humans in the room.
And it comes to this really cool visual of Kawinma walking in on him, and he's covered in blood. He's like, "There are no humans here, none at all." And it's like, damn.
Yeah, and so you're just like, okay, he was driven insane, and now he Shinobu Sensui's goal is to open up a portal to Demon World, and he wants to use it to allow demons to run rampant
and
in
just
the human world.
the humanity their just dues.
Yeah, he wants humanity to be wiped out.
And if that doesn't already make him a way, way, way better villain than Toguro, I want to hear some counter arguments in the comments because I got to hear anyone defend that.
Because what you find out is, Shinobu Sensui did end up also with that realization that he had when he killed those humans. He stole the Chapter Black tape and he watched the entire thing, the entirety of it, I believe. And that is also what basically put the nail in the coffin for his new ideology.
And imagine, because we get this character named Seaman, he's only saw a portion of it. So the fact that
Seaman saw a
we
portion
watched
of it.
the whole damn thing.
And with Seaman, it drove him to the point to where when he watched it, he thought it was almost himself inside of that tape.
He inserted
himself in there and was just like, I was doing those things, even though that was clearly not him on this tape. That's what the tape does to you. Yeah. And he was also convinced that humanity needs to go. And since we recruits all of these different people, I believe the Doctor, he's seen parts of it too, and it drove him to the point where he was just sadistic at this point. And I'm not sure if Sniper had seen the tape, but he just was like working.
I think Sniper just agreed with the ideology.
I think he agreed with the ideology, but Sniper, I don't know if he saw it. What's that kid's name? Game Master. Don't think Game Master saw it.
Game Master definitely did. Game Master would have been a different kid.
I don't think Game Master saw it, but he was buying on to what Sensui was selling him. And then you had Mr. Itsuki, who was opening up the tunnel to Demon World, and you also had Gourmet. Also, Sensui is working with Elder Toguro. He's got Elder Toguro.
He's back.
He's got Elder Toguro sitting in like this little fish tank healing.
He's like a head.
Like a head with like half of
his eyeball.
Like half of a hand floating there too. So it's really nasty.
Kind of speeding along to where I think the first big moment is Kuwabara with the Dimension Sword. I think.
Kuwabara is supposed to be helping them like investigate or something like that, but he decides to go to a Magalaga concert.
Yeah.
Y'all know
licensing.
Licensing.
So can't say who it is.
He goes to a Magalaga concert, and
I think him and Yusuke had a fight.
They had an argument about it.
Yusuke went to the arcade.
Yeah, Yusuke ends up going to the arcade, so it's like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, cool, dude. Fuck my feelings, I guess.
And
it's like, he's a meshy, I'm a meshy.
C-Man ends up quartering Kuwabara and his friends out in like the rain or whatever. And he's like gonna like drown Kuwabara, and like C-Man like has the ability to like manipulate water or constructs.
Yeah, he can like make a sphere of water or something. Yeah, he has his friends in there drowning for the most part.
And Kuwabara is able to like create a new upgraded spirit sword that can cut through reality, sort of.
And instead of like being this sudden transformation, it's actually something the Team Sensui, I'm gonna refer them to, is actually looking for. They were looking for someone capable of opening dimensions, and Kuwabara just happened to be it.
It was something specifically. It was a specific term for it.
Was it like
jig and toe? It was called the jig and toe.
There it goes.
The jig and toe. That's what he was looking for. That could have the ability to cut through it. And obviously, then they found out when Kuwabara could cut through Seaman's constructs,
he becomes a really valuable character.
They were like, we need him, so we need to kidnap Kuwabara. So it becomes this thing where they're trying to they're investigating the different members of Sensui's group, and they're like in this confrontation with the Doctor, and
Kuwabara still has this little humanity moment where, despite what Seaman did to his friends, he still like saved them. And
he still saved them.
He still dragged them back to the apartment.
Where they were like nursing Seaman.
Or I think they're at a hospital or something. I forgot where they're at.
No, they were in the apartment.
And
and
that's when you really get the backstory for the Chapter Black tape too.
Yeah, you get a lot of it there, and then
and the kid admitted he watched some of it, and it got him to do what he should do, and then they kind of guilt trip him. I think they turned.
They really guilt trip. They were just like, man up.
They're like, oh, so what? You watch the video?
Yeah, and so they're really after Kuwabara at this point. That's what they're figuring out. And Sensui with Sniper. I think it's with Sensui and Sniper.
They're take it on the streets.
Yeah, they're like they like corner them in the apartment.
Yeah, Sniper's throwing. Was he shooting?
He was throwing like pebbles or something.
Yeah,
dice or something.
It was like something like that. It was going through the window, and they were trying to keep them separated.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do. And Sensui is fighting Yusuke in the street, and he's got like this.
They're in a car.
No. Oh, that wasn't yet. When they were fighting it, I wanted to explain this part. This is something I didn't really like about this fight in the street. And this just might be, the martial arts nerd in me.
Yeah.
It's just that when they're explaining Sensui's fighting style, they try to make it sound so complex, and then it's just not that at all. And where they're just like
they're harping up on the style.
They're like, oh, his fighting style. I don't even remember what it was called. I don't know. Some fighting style that doesn't exist. And they're just like, yeah. Oh, what Genkai says is, it's so weird that he's a master of the style. Most people who learn this technique can only use it once they've basically mastered every martial art.
That's okay.
And literally all he does with this style is he deflects punches and throws kicks as a counter. I was like, so that's every other basic striking style martial art 101. I was like, deflect the kick or I grab it and then I was like, this is like basic Taekwondo stuff. And I was like, that I learned at white belt Taekwondo level. So I was just like, okay, Sensui's just this beast of a fighter.
I will say, if you want to compare it, Toguro is more immediately threatening than Sensui. I will give Toguro.
Yeah, immediately he's more threatening.
Toguro, you're like, all right, I'm not going hands with him.
I ain't trying to fight this dude.
Yeah, but Sensui,
when I look at Sensui, you look at him like, I can take him.
Oh, you skinny shit.
All right. Well, until he takes it. Well, he looks skinny because he's wearing that baggy shirt. But
and then he's got a little bit of definition there.
Yeah, he's a little cut up. I'll give it to him. But
they have this car chase.
So he's like, he basically just outclasses Yusuke
with his unique fighting style.
Yeah. Shoryuken style, I think that's what it was called.
I'm sure. I don't even remember it, and I guarantee it's probably what it was.
I don't even remember. It was something, and then but he does have that cool technique, similar where he contains the spirit energy into that ball, and then he kicks it, and then it goes.
That was cool.
It was kind of cool.
He doesn't do a whole lot to cement himself as the previous spirit detective for me though. Where it's I don't see you fighting like a spirit detective here. You did basic martial arts.
Yeah, it was okay. So so what they end up doing is they end up getting Kuwabara. They corner him or something like that. Kurama almost gets Sensui. Just with the rose whip.
That shit got range.
And Sensui's like, ooh, not dealing with this. And so he jumps into the middle of a crowd. And he's
eventually disappears.
And he's like, you're not going to attack me with that erratic weapon with all these people right here because you can't control where the thing goes once you start lashing it. And Kurama's like, all right.
He does know my fighting style.
Yeah, so he's like, okay. So, yeah, they do end up catching Kuwabara.
And they take him. Do they take him to the tunnel?
Yeah, they're on their way to the tunnel. And Yusuke is chasing after them on a bike. Yeah. Yeah, he's just on a dirt bike chasing on them on the road.
But god damn it, he gets there.
He's been there, and Yusuke ends up going up against Sniper in the forest.
Oh, yeah, that was there too.
Yeah, and Sniper, for all of you, he has the ability to. He's basically bullseye.
Pinpoint accuracy.
He's bullseye.
When I explain, I'm like, it's just pinpoint accuracy.
Yeah, and he has the ability to coat objects with his spirit energy and launch them as if they were bullets.
So it makes that thing we talked about in Spirit Detective Art where Yusuke bounced a gun off a mirror pussy shove.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
And then he can, if you're in his territory, he has the death markings or something like that where he just it's just bullseyes.
It's dedicated targets.
Yeah.
Or what did he explain? It just won't miss.
It won't miss. It'll keep coming after.
It has to hit.
To the point where he can launch. He launched an entire semi truck at Yusuke, and I was like, this is crazy.
And that's just crazy. I was just like, okay.
I was like,
was that necessary?
That's what we're doing now.
Oh well, I'm sorry. Super strength was a part of it too.
Well, no, it wasn't that. It was just he uses energy to
generate,
and it just launched it. I was like, that's crazy.
But does it still have the mass of one?
I don't know.
That's what I'm talking about.
But the thing blew up, so I assume that would have killed him. And so I think what ends up doing it in for him is Hiei shows up. So for everyone, so what we probably forgot to mention was when this whole thing kicked off, Hiei was like, this ain't my problem. He was like, this is a human world problem. Nah, not my thing. No. Y'all can do with this if you want to. So Hiei's been gone, MIA for the majority of this arc so far.
He wants to do the bare minimum to get his sentence done.
But he does show up when he sees Yusuke is in trouble at that moment. And because Yusuke does say at the beginning when he dips out, he's just like, he'll be back when we need him.
Yeah, he was totally
and he does show up, and he ends up stabbing Sniper with his katana. You know,
So
he's like telling Yusuke, like, he's like, you're not thinking clearly, and you're not even fighting like you normally do. And Yusuke's like, what does it matter to you? This isn't your problem, remember?
Yeah.
And then Hiei's just like, he's like, do I have to kill you for you to understand it? So
he
it was
cool. He backtracks in his previous statement where he doesn't find out if he's better than Yusuke or not with this scene too. I guess that's the point though.
It was kind of weird where it was just kind of like, okay, so we're getting this long-awaited rematch with Yusuke and Hiei, but it really wasn't that at the same time. It was Hiei just trying to beat some sense into Yusuke's head and wake him up a little bit.
If that's what you want to take away from it, to me, it could either be, oh, what he was saying earlier was just denying what he was feeling, and this is what I'm feeling. I actually do want to see how I stack up with Yusuke. You could see it that way, too. I don't think... This is another one of those weird Hiei moments where you could discern it as either way.
Yeah.
And I don't think Togashi thought that hard about
it. No. Hiei does specifically say after their fight, he was like, you just needed, you know,
a nudge.
Yeah, that's what he legit says that.
But is that the purpose though? Like,
I mean, my thing was like, I wanted to see them rematch again because they're rivals, but it was like, but that one right there was like literally not that. It was like the equivalent of Naruto and Sasuke fighting on top of the
heads
on the hot roof of that hospital.
Oh, that one. Yeah,
that's what they equivalent. Like, does anyone count that as a fight?
That's not a fight. That's a showcase of ability.
Yeah, so that's how I looked at that one. But he regroups with the team again, and they're all heading to the cave. And what's supposed to end up happening is with Kuwabara, when the portal is ready to be opened, the big guy Gourmet, he who has the ability to eat people and take their powers, he's going to eat Kuwabara.
So he can get that dimension.
So he can get the dimension sword. And what you also don't know is like you're wondering, what about Elder Toguro? Well, Gourmet had eaten Elder Toguro, so yeah, because
there's that too. Also, Gourmet's design is so boring.
Yeah, it's so boring.
That's a lot of just regular looking people in this arc.
Well, I think that was also the point of it too.
Yeah.
Sniper looked cool.
Hell, you're right. To be fair, the beef is the humanity of people. So I guess that's
regular looking people helping. So at this point, the team is heading to this cave. Hiei's now in tow with everyone, and
we're getting to one of the better Kuwabara moments too. Finally, where there's a bit emotional with. There's a point later on where Yusuke is actually combating with Sensui. We'll get to.
Oh yeah. So what we're getting to is they're getting into the tunnel, and it's Kurama, Hiei, Yusuke, and Seaman. Genkai is there, but she with the rest of them all wait outside the tunnel, and they go in. And they come upon Game Master. Game Master is this little kid who Sensui basically kind of like tricked into joining by thinking like, yeah, I'm going to make a world where, you know, like the bullies who pick on you and people like your parents don't exist anymore. Yeah. And, you know, this is a dumb little kid who wants to have free reign over his life.
And so it's sad because it was so easy to get the kids like trust because all he had to do was play with him, and it's
he was able to beat him at Goblin City, this popular game that was out at the time.
And this is a really interesting little character too that I like.
It was very interesting what happened. So they need like 7 people to play the game, so they have to go back outside and get the rest of the group, and they're playing this game, Goblin City, where the Game Master essentially has the ability to manifest video games and make them his reality.
That's his territory.
In his territory. Yeah. And they're playing in Goblin City. It's almost like, think of Mario Party.
That's exactly.
It's like you can just have, you know, Wii Sports or whatever you want. You know, there's different games you can play within the game. Yusuke is able to win at the fighting game one, and then Genkai is apparently like a beast at the fighter pilot one.
Apparently.
I was like, okay, Grandma.
Makes sense of that for me.
Yeah, she was just like, what y'all think I'd just be doing up in
there? I was like, did you whip out a license and just...
Yeah, she was just a beast at the fighter pilot one, and then EA, not learning from his previous one, he's just like,
I don't give a shit.
He tries to destroy the game by cutting it in half, and it just reforms again, and he's just like, I'm over this.
I'm done. And I love that.
He's like, I'm over it. So he's like, y'all wake me up when y'all beat this kid. And then Kaito plays him at a trivia. It's like Jeopardy or something like that.
It is pretty much.
It was like
Japanese Jeopardy.
And what was crazy was Game Master had the questions of the formula, even though the questions supposed to be random. There's only certain tracks that it plays on. He has every track memorized and knows what question and answer is going to be before they pop up.
So it's easy pickings.
So he just starts beating.
Bam.
He just starts bodying Kaido at this game. So Kaido loses, and then so like the last one is like what's like Tetris.
It is.
It's like it's Tetris.
I mean, it's just Tetris.
Yeah, it's Tetris, and so Kurama goes up against him.
This is the best one.
And this is honestly the best one because Kurama starts doing what he needs to do to beat this boy.
He comes to terms with what he has to do.
Yeah, he makes amends with it, and he starts like, Kurama's smart, so he's just like he can figure out Tetris easily. Yeah. But he's like he also knows this. I'm smart, but this boy is really good at this game, and so
I can't just beat him.
So he's like, he starts making him second guess himself because when you get to the final stage of Goblin City, the Goblin King is supposed to die, and Game Master is taking on the role of Goblin King, and since this is in his territory, if he beats him in this final stage, the kid will die.
Supposedly, yeah.
And so
Kurama
starts telling him like, did Sensui tell you what's supposed to happen? Yeah. He was like, why do you think? He was like, have you ever manifested Goblin City in your territory before? He's like, no, since Miss Sensui said it would be too exhausting for me. He's like, but you've manifested other games before. He was like,
so why would that be?
He was like, so why would they be any different? Mm-hmm. He was like, because it's supposed to be stressful. He was like, because he knows that if you lose playing as the role of the Goblin King, you're going to die. And he was like, no, that wouldn't happen. He was like, have you ever? And he was like, he plans on you thinking that, and he plans on us knowing this, and he thinks we won't make the hard decision. And he was like, but have you ever, as the Goblin King, lost this game? He's like, no, never. Yeah. And he was like, so how do you know you won't die when I beat you?
That's what fucks him up.
And that little boy is like,
start sweating.
He's like, wait a minute, what? And then he starts looking at the score, and Kurama's ahead.
And it starts playing the mind game.
And then he starts missing like easy sevens and all this and all that. And they're like, Kurama got in that boy's mind. And then he starts looking at him, and the boy's like, he's like, can't you just like,
he starts
trying. He's like sad because he starts trying to beg to him. He's like, can't you just lose this game? He's like, I can't. He was like, is there a way for you to shut off this territory and let us go? He's like, no, the only way to do it is if somebody loses the game. And he's like, well, I can't lose.
I can't.
And he's like, because if I lose, that just keeps us in a loop here. But if you lose, we can move on. Go. And then he's just like, no, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And Kurama's just like, listen to this boy. Kurama it's so haunting because he's blocking out this boy, begging for him to let him win.
And remember, this is the same person that got his humanity toyed with during his fight in the Dark Tournament, too, where Shishi Wakamaru was like, hey, please help me, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, no, Yuri Urashima.
Yuri Urashima. Yeah. And it's like, so he's got compassion. So the fact that Kurama is able to just numb himself for this.
He's like, I got to do what I got to do. But it does tear him up inside because he's like, I just killed. I'm not trying to be this person that I used to be anymore, but I have to do it to save for the greater good.
And I like how Togashi draws, like, you can't see like Kurama's eyes when he wins.
Yeah.
And it's like it's not. Yeah, he went, and it's really haunting because it has that video game joyous fanfare.
It's like, you just saved Goblin City and defeated the Goblin King, and it's like, wow. And you hear the boy's body drop. You hear his body drop, and you're like, wow.
And then just Kurama's expression, you're like, damn, that's haunting.
And everyone's like,
and of course, like every good anime, quote unquote die.
Yeah, so
damn it, they really didn't need to undo that one. That would have
been good if that one stuck. But so they take the boy's body and take him out the cave. He's dead as of right now, and Kurama is just like, let's go. And he's like dead serious right now. And Yusuke is just kind of like, is he okay? Yeah.
And so
and he's talking to Hiei, and Hiei just laughs. He's like, you think that's the first kid he's killed? And you're just like. He's like, well, unlike some demons, his position seems to have changed on that.
Yeah.
And then so they finally get to the tunnel, and they're in the cave, and Sensui is sitting on this sofa in the middle of this cave,
just chilling.
And it's assumed he's watching Chapter Black.
And I don't think they ever say.
They never say, but I assume that's what he was watching.
He's watching movies,
or he's watching,
and it's sort of he's
watching Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, you see war.
It's a war movie,
so it's probably Chapter Black.
Yeah, and he he said he's got the ending of the movie timed with the tunnels like opening or whatever. What's like happening is Gourmet, they're like just talking, and like Gourmet comes out and he's gonna fight them because Gourmet has like eaten all these different psychics.
Got a lot of powers now.
And there was someone on their team, I can't remember, Morota, I think that was his name.
That is Morota.
Yeah, Morota, who had the ability to like read minds, and Gourmet had eaten him. So he was reading everyone's minds, and he was like, "Oh, you got a juicier secret, don't you, Kurama?"
Yeah,
Kurama. He was like, "You're more torn up about killing Game Master than Yusuke has let on." And he says the one thing that sealed his fate. He was like, "Yoko Kurama would never be so weak." And it was at that moment. The sad thing was Gourmet didn't even know he messed up.
Not at all.
He couldn't even have read his mind to know he messed up. So after he's like told them like, yeah, he ate their teammate and stuff like that, Yusuke's like, all right, eat my teammates, all right, gotta hand out some fades. And Kurama's like, nah, I got it. And then he's like, and he straight up tells Yusuke, do not argue, I'm not in the mood. And Yusuke's like,
you got it. So if it's not clear, he's vindictive about having to kill.
He's like, I'm gonna kill this dude, and like, and Hiei is just looking kind of with this smirk, like, y'all about to see it. And Kurama pulls out his rose out of his hair, and Morota's looking at him, and he's trying to read his mind. And this was so interesting. He's like, he's not thinking anything. And then
and he just literally stopped all thoughts.
He stopped all his thoughts, and in a split second, the rose whip appears. It's wrapped around Gourmet's face,
and it's just
head off.
So he's like just like jaw at this point now.
It's just it's just the bottom half of a jaw, and then like everyone's like, "Oh my gosh!"
It's so badass.
No, he didn't just do that. And Kurama's like, act on impulse, and not even your thoughts can betray you. And he's like, now come out to Goro. And everyone's like, what? And Kurama being
one of the most disgusting visuals.
It's so disgusting that you see it, but like Kurama being, a fox demon, he was like, his senses are so heightened, and he said he could smell Togoro from the moment they entered the cave, so he knew he was there. And you just hear this laughing, and Togoro pops out of the bottom of Gourmet's severed jaw, and it's just a head popping out of another head, so it's just gross.
It looks so bizarre.
And you find out this was an entire goal. This was planned by Togoro and Sensui, because Togoro's regeneration from the thrashing that he took from younger Togoro, it was taking too long for him to regenerate. You'll just eat Gourmet, and then you'll take over Gourmet when the time is right.
Yeah, so it was, and Gourmet was weirdly not against it too.
Well, he just thought like he was gonna absorb Togoro's powers, but what ended up happening was Togoro from the inside, like a parasite, just took over his body. And Gourmet, they show scenes that he knew something was wrong.
Yeah. And
so now Togoro has the ability to devour other people and get their powers.
Ability or whatever.
Because he can read minds and stuff like that. And he's like, he's gonna devour Kurama first. And so what ends up happening.
Speaking of which is his favorite plants, as he does.
And Kurama creates a smoke screen. And it appears as though Togoro is like slaughtering Kurama from the inside, and then the next thing you see is Kurama emerging from the smoke.
It's so badass.
He emerges from the smoke, and he's like, the deed has been done.
And then you see this plant that I believe it's to keep him there forever. It's what is it? It's like it has.
What is the name of that thing?
Yeah, it's
the sinning tree.
The sinning tree.
Yeah.
And it just permanently locks him, I believe, forever because he can regenerate. So it's supposed to kill you.
It's supposed to kill you.
But because he regenerates, it's in a loophole, so the dude is stuck there forever.
He got Tsukuyomi with a tree. So it's like, all right, that happened, and everyone's like, this guy is
probably the worst fate. Yeah. He's just stuck there forever.
And Yusuke takes a mental note. He was like, do not tell Kurama he let his fox eye down.
Yeah.
And so then from there, what we have is now it's a showdown in the cave between Yusuke and Sensui.
So it's finally Spirit Detective versus
Spirit Detective versus Spirit Detective. And what we're also learning is in this fight, Sensui has different personalities.
Like 7 of them.
7 of them.
And they're all interesting.
They're all different. Some of them are even... I think there's 2 girl personalities.
There's 2 girls. One of them is like this hothead who's like, I can take him, please let me try it. Like he's trying to like argue with the other personalities, which is really cool.
Oh yeah, Kazuya.
Kazuya
is like the crazy one, and then yeah, he's got all these different ones, and Mr. Itsuki, who is in love with Sensui, seems to have like a romantic relationship with one of the personalities.
I don't even remember which of the ones
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Because they refer.
It's like one that cries all the time and spouts poetry.
I believe it's that one. It just he still just refers to Sensui as a whole, so it's kind of hard to really ask.
You don't really know which one is which, but you do see it. You do see them all communicate with each other at one particular scene.
And at this point, it's just Yusuke. The other group are in another like dimension thing, right? And so they're sort of forced to just watch. And I forgot what it was. Kuwabara was unable to break through.
So there's this this weird ancient like spirit that Mr. Itsuki can summon, and it
prevents him from using
swallows
the sword.
It swallows Hiei, Kurama, and Kuwabara, and they're stuck in this place, and that's where like Mr. Itsuki tells them about like Sensui and his personalities and how he's in love with Sensui, and then Yusuke and Sensui are just like duking it out, and Sensui has like a clear advantage over Yusuke, and just Sensui admits that Yusuke is a better raw fighter than he is, but Sensui's like experience is what gets him over on the fight, and he's like flipping back and forth between these personalities,
and they all fight differently. So
and really they all don't identify with the same actions as the other one, and Yusuke now is starting to realize like. He has to do for them what Kuwabara did for Yusuke during the Dark Tournament.
Gotta do the same.
So he allows Sensui to kill him.
And Kuwabara, that Chris Sabat voice acting here shines again because you feel that.
Yeah, he's like falling to his knees,
that
crying,
pain.
saying like, "No." He's like, "You don't need to do this.
Yeah.
I'll break through it. I'll find this power. Don't worry.
You don't have to do it."
And Hiei and Kurama are just kind of standing there, coming to the realizations that this is just how it has to be, and there's nothing they can do, and they'll just accept it. So Yusuke dies, and Kuwabara is able to summon the Dimension Sword, and he cuts through, and the portal to Demon World has now started to open up, and now
we finally got our boys down there with Sensui.
So like the massive demonic energy is swirling all everywhere. Sensui also, there was this buff he had, the sacred energy, and it was something that only like pure-hearted. It's something that's above demon and spirit energy.
What was it called? Saint energy? No,
it was sacred energy. Sacred energy, and it's something that you have to. It was like only like someone after like some amount of years.
I think Kurama explains it.
It's something that only someone could attain it after reaching some sort of enlightenment, but it's after a certain amount of centuries. And he was like 7 personalities.
So
and
it cuts the time.
Multiply that by this, and then you have the fact that in his Shinobu persona, he's innocent. He's able to, through all that added together, he's able to obtain this.
He essentially loopholes himself into getting that ability.
Into getting this ability. And then so now what happens is with Yusuke presumably dead, Kurama, he doesn't necessarily make this full transformation into Yoko.
He takes the appearance of Yoko. And he even explains that it's not Yoko's power, it's just...
No, it is. He gets the power, it's not Yoko's personality.
Now, that's what it was.
It was
the body, but not the personality.
He gets the body, the power because of this surge of demonic energy, but it was still his mind.
And this is one of my absolute favorite Hiei moments because it shows that he actually cares for Yusuke, where he does this like sick Dragon of the Darkness.
He's like
play.
running and
just
throws it at
what was it? He's like, here's a one-way ticket for you straight to hell.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, oh, get it.
Jesus,
he cared. He actually cared.
And then he blasts Sensui through the portal, and then so they all jump through the portal.
So they're in this crazy looking like, is it the demon world? It's like
it's the world between worlds.
It looks cool. It's got a lot of
net there.
And they're falling, and Kuwabara's like, well, I'm dead.
So they go through the net. Kuwabara's able to cut through
the net. Oh, yeah, Koenma's here, by the way.
Yeah.
We forgot Koenma
was Koenma's here. And so they follow him to, now we're in Demon World, realm of Makai, and Kurama spouts he uses the seed to create butterfly wings.
It's so, like,
it was so cool.
It's literally, he just needed to fall, and he did it in the coolest way possible, and you gotta, like, plant butterfly wings. I'm like, that's so stupidly cool. So cool. Why did you make landing cool? Why did you need to do that?
So they're all going up against Sensui.
And the worst iteration of Sensui, because he just does Toguro shit, where it's this armor, and it just makes me better, and it's like, oh look, I think it's the fifth time we see
these
this.
Different sacred energy armors that neither one look really cool. He has like 2 of them.
They don't look cool. It's a retread for the 5th time about armor bullshit, and it's just an excuse for them not to body him.
Yeah, that's really what it was when they got like this buff, and now you're just like, well, this is dumb. Like, this is my complaint where it was like it's towards the end of this arc where most of my complaints with Yu Yu Hakusho start to come, and it's like why did you have to go this so typical shonen route where the main character, I get it's the main character, but he has to be the one to do it. Like, I would have even been happy if it was like all 4 of them just ganged up on him. Yeah, so
if it was all 4 of them, it would have been fantastic. I actually think it would have behooved them better if it was just those 3.
That would have been better if it was Kuwabara, Hiei, and Kurama.
Imagine the status of explaining Kuwabara's like involvement if Kuwabara was actually the one that was able to kill Sensui or something. Like, you could have used this to boost
like Hiei and
Kuwabara.
Kurama were able to create these openings
for Kuwabara,
and then Kuwabara just comes and stabs him straight through the face with the dimension sword.
Imagine this idea: Hiei breaks through the armor, Kurama cuts him into pieces, and Kuwabara uses the dimension sword to send the pieces to different dimensions. Wouldn't that have been sick as shit?
Would have been sick, but guess what?
But Yusuke's in here. He's better than everybody. I was like, are you serious?
So Koenma shows up with like Yusuke's corpse, and they've like.
I'm sorry. He like absorbs another dragon, I think, right?
He does do that,
and it's cool, but it's overshadowed because Yusuke.
Yeah, because Yusuke, and then since we bodies that technique anyway.
And I hated that.
I hated that.
You even said earlier that like Yusuke's a better fighter, but here's XOX reasons why I'm better than Kurama, I'm better than Kuwabara. Because you have armor.
It was so dumb. And so at this point, like, Yusuke's like laying there, and they're like, well, he's not dead, his spirit's not coming out of his body. And so we've got like the Spirit Defense Force has been launched. Because
that's their name.
Yeah, the Spirit
Defense
Force.
It's not a WWE group.
It's about as dumb as the Spirit Warriors from the Dark Tournament.
Well, they're essentially just the damn ghost police.
That's really what they are.
It's just stupid.
And
don't they try to go for Yusuke?
Yeah, because they've been told. So, all right, now here
we go.
Here we go, everyone. Our biggest gripe.
With
Yu Yu Hakusho that almost singularly ruined this arc.
It almost unwrites Yusuke's character.
Now, I understand some people like this or whatever, and that's fine.
I give credit where credit's due.
Now, I'll say this.
He looks cool.
He looks cool. Really does. Like, amazingly cool. However, the narrative of it is dumb.
So, what we're getting at, Yusuke is apparently part demon. Yes, the human character that you're proud of going toe-to-toe with these mythical beasts, and he did it through sheer will and by training. Oh no, he was gifted from birth because he's part demon. So it was all that training was nothing. He's part demon.
Yeah.
Great.
And then the way they explain this is like, okay, so did Yusuke's mom have sex with a demon? No.
So technically, we skipped between generations, and you just happen to be the generation or something.
So Yusuke is apparently the descendant, or he is a Mazaku. Something like that.
Yeah,
he's either the descendant of one or he is one. And what it is, it's a gene that pops up once every few generations when a demon has slept with a mortal. And you're just like, okay, and they're like, so Yusuke's credentials as a spirit detective have to be revoked at this point. And you're like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, so everything needs to pause.
So, pause this whole arc for a second. Hold up. So Yusuke being a spirit detective, Spirit World having to have these files on almost every human that has ever existed.
They have artifacts from billions of years ago.
And you mean to tell me when you did, and you said you did your research on this boy's bloodline, and like I said, you've got all these people, these ogres and these other spirit beasts that do all your work for you. Somehow they didn't see or catch that Yusuke generations ago has a demon in his family tree. Now, granted, I will tell you that was Togashi throwing that in there at the last minute. But for narrative reasons, you should have figured out why. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm preaching right now. But it's just like, you gotta tell me. Why you could not write how they decided to overlook that within the world building of your own series.
Yusuke wasn't an orphan. He has parents. You could trace shit back.
You could have just told me his mom slept with a demon and didn't know it.
That's all you had to say.
But no, you know, we just never. His dad's just always been a no-show, so we're just gonna say he's got this ancestral father
And
here.
Koenma, being the almighty ruler who's been around forever, didn't know.
He's like, but we did extensive research on his family. Apparently you didn't, Koenma. Apparently you didn't.
You did the piss poorest job of researching Yusuke if you missed that crucial detail.
Yeah, and so it's just like, so now Yusuke is part demon, and I just don't we just don't like that.
It
undercuts his character because yes, like Jacob said, he was this character that was going up against demons as a human with his humanity, with the spirit energy that he. Now, do I have an issue with Yusuke getting demon energy? No,
you could.
I don't have a problem with that.
They have a billion. You could have turned it into an object.
You could have said like there was a way he got it. He could have learned it somewhere or whatever.
You could have got blood transfused with a demon.
Something, but him being demon was just like a no for me.
So this is the part where we've talked about the writing for a while. So it's infamous. Togashi was ready to be done with Yu Yu Hakusho to me at this point.
At this point.
This is the final story. Chapter Black was really interesting, and Sensui is a good villain. But this very moment is where you can feel Tokashi's ready to kind of...
He's ready to wrap this up.
I'm done with Yu Yu Hakusho.
So what ends up happening is Yusuke returns flying on the back of Pooh. Pooh's turned into like this phoenix thing. And he's riding on the back of him.
Yes, Pooh is still a thing.
Oh my gosh. He's riding on the back of Pooh and he lands in Demon World. He's going up against Sensui now. Now when they see Yusuke is back, they all get this boost in energy. And that's where we were just talking about. If all four of them just stomped him.
It would have been so sad.
You know, like in the episode of The Boys where them three girls were just stomping Stormlander. I was like, I would have loved that. I would have loved that. But
it would have been satisfying. But no, they had to do a Dragon Ball Z and Goku has to be.
It's got to be a 1v1.
Not Vegeta.
Like, whatever. So it's just like, okay, fine. And then so then when they see him again, Kurama, he and Kuwabara all feel this boost for revitalization from seeing their friend back to life. So they're like, oh yeah, now let's go. Let's hand out fades. And then Yusuke's like, no, I'm going to handle it for me. It's just like, okay, well, I'm sorry. He killed you. So,
let the people who haven't been killed by him.
Yeah, we've been getting our butts whooped, but we got a boost feeling again. We got a second wind coming on. So how about you can help?
Give us a shot.
So what ends up happening is they're duking it out, and then Yusuke is feeling this presence take over him. And I'll admit.
Okay, so we're gonna give credit where credit's due. The transformation into the Mazaku form is really cool. He looks cool. The design is like he looks feral. Mm-hmm. He's got these cool tattoos. I like Justin Cook's like change in his like voice and how he talks was like antagonistic. So you get to hear like a really crazy Yusuke.
And then you hear like the voice of the ancestor in his mind.
If this was implanted into any other character, it would have been one of my like top 5 favorite designs for a character. It just happened to be at the supreme cost of a character, which is why there's so much baggage. When I give any compliment to this damn thing, in the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, but...
Yeah, there's always a but with me, and it's just like, you made him half demon.
And then they fight.
And
it's so shonen.
It's so shonen. This is where Yu Yu Hakusho almost went full Dragon Ball.
Oh, like, dude, his
like he is slapping.
His spear guns were Kamehamehas.
Yeah, and he was slapping Sensui all over that place. Now it was cool when he jumped on top of him and just started jumping on his stomach like a trampoline.
Oh,
yeah, I was like, Jesus, Yusuke.
It was brutal, and
then he picks him up by the neck, by the throat, and
to be fair, he has a lot of neck to grab. Sensui has like the longest neck.
That neck is something.
That dude's a dinosaur.
And he chucks him into the air, and then his ancestor takes over.
I guess more over.
Yeah, like Yusuke was aiming the spirit gun, and then he like took over again, and he was like, "No, I don't want to kill him." And then his ancestor makes him scream out so long.
Yeah, so long.
And then he fires the spirit gun, and that thing just wipes Sensui out. It was
like that's what you'd call a Dragon Ball Z like. A world ender. He shoots this damn blast.
And Yusuke is all upset because he's like, no, I wasn't in control at the moment. Like, we gotta get up and fight again. And it's just like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, so at this point, Sensui's done. Like,
yeah, essentially Sensui's done. What ends up happening is Mr. Itsuki shows back up, and he was hurt from Kurama Hiei and Kuwabara breaking out of his thing.
They do this weird, at the end of the Toguro fight, Toguro has to expunge on his philosophy, etc., etc. So Sensui does his own, and then he reveals he was like terminally ill, which I'm not quite sure what the point of him being terminally ill was. Why they felt the need to write that in. So
I don't like those terminal illness things. Where it's like, so this person was doing all of this because they were. It undercuts certain things to me. It's just like where it's just like, okay, you didn't need. There was no point in saying that when Yusuke just blew him to high hell, and so you're just like, no one knew about this, especially when there was no scene where we saw Sensui coughing or taking medications. No hints. So it's just like there was no reason to write him being ill.
I do this question to see if whether or not what you're writing really adds to a character. It's him being terminally ill. What does that change? Nothing. And it changes nothing, especially because you threw it in right at the end, just like Demon Yusuke.
Absolutely
nothing.
It changed nothing.
The ending would have been the same if he was terminally ill or not, and Yusuke turned demon and beat his ass.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same. But you already had him interesting enough with viewing the Chapter Black tape, going down this morality hellhole, an ex-spirit detective. You already had the recipe. Why did you added too much salt? You just kept adding shit to the pot. Why did you do that? And it ruined Sensui. Despite all of our gripes, he still leaps and bounds better than Toguro. Yeah. Hell, he even does a better Toguro fight with his dumb armor because he has Toguro at that moment.
Yeah.
So to me, Sensui is the peak of villains for Yu Yu Hakusho. And then the cop out I already mentioned earlier. The Game Master comes back to life because fuck it.
And they give like a recap of what happens with everyone who was a part of Team Sensui.
Was it just undoes because Sensui's beaten, so it brings everybody. I don't remember the explanation.
I don't remember.
Game Master just comes back, so any grit from that scene is undone, and I do feel guilty harping on Yu Yu Hakusho for it because that's just a anime or western. That's just a trope writers need to get over, is bringing people back. Maybe if Game Master,
especially when it was these characters that we're never gonna
see. Did you just can't stand the fact that Kurama killed a kid? Even though you even dropped the nugget earlier, he killed him before. Then what the fuck does this matter?
Yeah, so Mr. Itsuki ends up taking Sensui's body to another plane, and they're just going to stay in this void of.
They're gonna smoochy smooch until they both probably get terminally ill.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure like Mr. Itsuki was gonna do some unquestionable, unspeakable things to Sensui. Whatever.
It's the conclusion of Chapter Black, and then we have
final arc.
Very divisive arc.
Divisive.
This one's gonna be a lot of us really talking with conjectures, to be honest.
You guys aren't gonna be sure if we like this arc or not, but
we love Yu Yu Hakusho. Again, it's our favorite shonen, but
it's not perfect.
You might be surprised about what you think about the next one.
And you'll see it when we talk about the Saga of the Three Kings.